Amenities Commission meeting for April 8th, 2026 to order. And if we can get a roll call, please.
Commissioner Youssef Zai. Here. Commissioner Galassi.
Present.
Commissioner McCauley.
Here.
Chair Morocco.
Here. Okay, now we'll do the salute to the flag. And since we do have a special guest, I would hope that he would like to lead us in the pledge. Will you please rise?
Place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, so we move on to approving the order of the agenda. I just want to inquire, do you want to be done with us early, or do you want to stay where you are?
The order is great as written, it looks like, unless there's going to be conversation about the consent calendar items.
Just the minutes usually. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
Motion to move.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, say no. Okay, so that's approved. Lane, do we have anybody that's going to be on so far on Zoom or anything like that?
No one is online.
Great. Moving on to the blue folder items, I believe we have two items on the in the packet. Did everybody get a chance to see them? They're for items F4 regarding the parks, historical and parks and recreation activities. And then there's a library report. Yeah. So everybody got them?
Yep.
Can I get a motion to receive and file the blue folder items?
I move to receive and file.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay, so that passes. We have four items on the consent calendar: the approval of affidavit for posting, the approved Redondo Beach Public Amenities Commission meeting minutes from March 11th, a library director's report, and receive and file updates from the Community Services Department related to historical and parks and recreation activities. Any member would like to pull an item?
I do not.
Okay, I'm going to pull two items, the library director's report and the minutes. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to comment on an item F1 or F3? F4, sorry.
No public comments.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar items F1 and F4?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay, that passes. We're going to the excluded consent calendar. I pulled item F3 so we can get some of the highlights of what's going on with the library. I know there's a special presentation next week, I believe, for National Library Week. So do you have any highlights you want to point out to us?
Yes, absolutely. Let's kind of read here. We have a special author program coming up on Saturday, National Library Week. The theme is Find Your Joy. There will be a special proclamation that all the commissioners are invited to next Tuesday at the council meeting. We've invited some friends of the library and some other supporters. We do request, we'll send an email, but we will request the RSVP so we can get an itinerary, but we do have a proclamation. And when Amy talks about adult programming, she can expand a little bit more on our National Library Week activities and what we've done in the past. We're getting prepared for summer reading. We have the Women in STEM program, which we're very excited about. Everyone's invited to that. National Poetry Month we're celebrating with a very special poet, writer, and storyteller will be here. We have a variety of displays. I do have a few other announcements. We have started the One Book, One Coast series of programs, so that title is available. Most of our programs will be occurring in May, but you're free to pick up a copy of the physical book or the digital copy, available on Hoopla and Libby. We do have an announcement of a library book sale that will be occurring, I believe, on, let me just double check here, May 9th, Saturday. We'll send a flyer out, make sure everyone's aware of the date and time, but that's a Saturday. We will have library staff will be at outreach at the birthday party for the city at the museum. We've secured Ed and Douglas, so we're very excited about that. They were working on a new pamphlet that explores our historic resources on our website. That'll be revised and updated and available. Is there any other, one other thing I wanted to mention, we will be doing a big push. Our library app will require an update probably around the 20th of April. What it means is that we'll have some, the user features will be enhanced. It'll be a much more attractive app, more user-friendly, but it will require users to update the app and then re-log in with their library cards. So we're trying to do some preemptive education and outreach to make sure people that have the app. It's kind of amazing when they ran the statistics for me, we have about 10,000 people that have downloaded our library app and that use it actively. So we're trying to mitigate any issues with that transition, but it's going to be a net positive for people that use the app. So that's coming. Any questions or comments on anything I've listed or maybe something I might have left out?
Yeah.
Is Amy going to be talking about the two recent programs that you had, or is that something you want to highlight now?
She can definitely expand on that. And the ladies, the library ladies. Yes, she can expand on that. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any public comments with regards to the library director's report?
No public comment.
Okay, I'm going to have that vote at the same time we do the minutes. I'm looking at page 11 of it's on the lower right-hand corner. I'm just, again, a little confused and concerned. The motion carried 3-1-3 halfway through the page. Did we decide, or did the city clerk decide that we needed 4 people to make a motion pass, or is this basically the majority of the people present?
Majority of the people present, notwithstanding a hearing, that is still, I believe in talking to the city attorney, the code is silent on that. So right now it's a simple majority.
Okay, great. And then on page 17, you have Commissioner Lang's name highlighted in yellow.
I don't know why.
That's what I'm asking.
Apologize for that. What page was that?
It's page 17 in the lower right-hand corner.
Okay.
It's about 3 paragraphs from the bottom.
We will.
On page 10 as well.
I don't see
Oh, yeah,
no page.
10 of 18 if you were going by a different set of numbers.
Yes, thank you. We will correct that.
Is there a reason it was highlighted, or just the confusion about who was the person talking? Or?
I think I remember there was a typo when I received it and it said Commissioner Land.
Okay,
So I think it was highlighted to change and maybe was not unhighlighted after.
thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
None from me.
Any public comment? Okay, so it doesn't sound like anybody's there. Can I get a motion to approve item F2 and F3?
I move to approve F2 and F3.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, say no. Okay, so that passes. So now we move to public participation in non-consent items. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on any subject that does not appear on this agenda for action. The section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once. Written requests, if any, will be considered first under this section. Do we have any written requests?
No written requests.
Does anybody in the audience wish to address this commission? Okay, and anybody online?
No one online.
Okay, so we're moving on to the next item. Ex-parte communications, we don't have any. Public hearings, we do not have anything. Items continued from previous agendas, we don't have that either, so we move to item number L, discussion and possible action regarding the fiscal year 26-27 budget input to the city manager. So I'm going to turn it over to the city manager, and welcome.
There it goes.
Oh, I turned it back off.
Nice to see you all. It's that time of year. It does seem a little bit earlier than normal. You're the first commission that I'm appearing before to gather input on the upcoming budget development. Since it is early April, don't have much to share in terms of context with where we're standing with operating revenues or expenditures from a forecasting perspective. We just completed our mid-year review and are now assembling what we're expecting for the 26-27 fiscal year period, which will begin officially July 1st. We'll have more of that data here in the next 30 days. But the point of this conversation, as many of you know who have heard this in the past, is really to seek input from you all while we're beginning that development and preparation rather than after the fact. So it's an opportunity for you to ask questions if you have them about operations, programs, maintenance, capital projects or the like, status, et cetera. I'll do my best to answer them. If I don't have those answers tonight, make sure that we follow up through Dana at your next meeting. But beyond that, it's a chance for you to give me ideas, concept, things that we should be considering as we go forward, whether it's this year or whether it's when we can identify funds to afford it into the future, whatever makes the most sense given the structure. So it's a listening night for me as opposed to a presenting night. So for those who don't know me, Mike Wodzinski, city manager, been with the city for a little over 20 years. Been in this role now for almost 5 in kind of a quasi early capacity, and prior to that been the assistant city manager, was the public works director and the community services director when I was first hired here in town. So I've worn a few different hats, experienced Redondo from a couple of different points of view, and really proud of where we're sitting as an organization, where we are standing as a city. We have done an incredible job with placemaking in the last few years. We've had a number of really successful capital projects unveiled here recently. We have more in the queue, so a lot of exciting work getting done there. Have a wonderful executive team, just really energetic, quality, innovative staff. They continue to push very hard organizationally with programs and services. I would put our services up against any of our neighbors and anyone really in the state. I think we do an outstanding job here. We have a great team. I'm very proud of their work. So not a lot to focus on this year when we come to the budget. It's really going to be about making sure we're balanced, that structural revenues are supporting structural expenditures, that we don't get too far over our skis. Last year, you might recall, we did use some one-time reserve funds to cover different expenditures that were needed in the fiscal year budget. We hope not to have to do that again next fiscal year, but the economy is in a precarious place locally. There are some bright spots. Property tax continues to be strong for us, whereas sales tax and transient occupancy tax, which are big numbers for us historically, tend to be flat to weak. TOT in particular has been harmed in the last year with all that's gone on internationally with travel and the like. So we're struggling there. I'm not sure how much of that will be restored going into 26-27. We do have some exciting world events. Obviously, the World Cup will be in the region this summer. That should help drive some increased tourism, so we hope to capitalize on that. But overall, that market continues to be, unfortunately, I would say kind of soft for us, as it is for our neighbors and the region as a whole. So those are areas that we'll continue to monitor. Don't yet know exactly where we'll land, as I said, from a forecasting standpoint, but the kind of topics of concern for us going forward. So we're going to be judicious with the proposed budget this year. We don't have a lot to go out and do. We have, as I said, many projects in the queue that we want to stay focused on and see accomplished before we move our attention to new items. I know there's a project that this commission's been interested in, the Aviation Park pickleball courts. That's a project that's upcoming, one that we're beginning the design process on. So that work will continue latter part of this fiscal year and into next. So that's one that's come forward. In fact, that was even referenced in our strategic planning discussion a couple of weeks ago, or I guess is that last week now? I guess last week. So yeah, lots of exciting things. I think over 100 total in the CIP currently. Had 108 to start the year. We've knocked a few of those off, but there's a lot of work going on, and we're excited about it. So I guess with that, I'll stop talking and start listening. So any thoughts, questions, comments?
We actually do have a subcommittee. We actually have expertise actually on it.
wonderful.
So I will turn it over to Commissioner Yusufi if you want to start us off on this.
I have so many questions.
Right.
No, I mean, we appreciate, like I think I could say for everybody taking the time out to come and speak to us about this. Just a couple quick points, and I won't deviate too much into the public budgeting aspect of it. I want to kind of stay, but you did mention a couple highlights I was just particularly curious about with TOT revenue shortfalls. I'm assuming sales tax revenue like shortfalls as well. Is there any particular, I know you said global market and decom, but is there any other kind of market indicators towards that? Because TOT historically has been pretty strong in general. So
yeah, what I would say is, if you look at our TOT, local TOT, and I'm speaking about Redondo Beach in particular, if you go back about 15 years, around the area of our kind of the sort of just post-recessionary area, 08, 09, 10, 11, our occupancy would hover in the low 70%. As we, over the next probably 5 to 6 years, we saw that number on the whole get close to 90%. So just highly occupied. That's when our TOT was at its peak. COVID hit, and we just have not yet recovered anything close to that. And I would say this year, there's been a bit of a pullback as compared to last. So we're back down to more of that I would say naturalized kind of 70, 75% occupancy figure, which for us means that we are 2 to 3 million short in what we would otherwise experience in TOT. And that's a big number for us. That's a kind of a 2 to 3% overall general fund revenue hit.
Right. Yeah.
And that is effectively what our structural gap was last year, and borrow effectively from the reserve that we needed. So I'd love to see that rebound this year. There's another more detailed implication in TOT for us. We have a leaseback arrangement with the hotel owners at the Marine Avenue sites. There's 3 properties up there: the Residence Inn, Hilton Garden Inn, and then I'm forgetting the last one. It's a Marriott property. The 3, when they're at their peak, are generating roughly $3 million a year in TOT for us. We have a site-specific tax pledge agreement with them through a land transaction that helped enable their initial construction, that when they have soft years and they have to do brand refreshes, they're able to draw against that fund. The banks effectively are able to draw against that fund to kind of keep them whole. And the recession, or I should say the COVID pullback, drained that fund. They were starting to refill it fully, and then they've, through their recent refreshes, have had to pull money out of there again. So we are not seeing any TOT from those sites currently as a result of that site-specific tax pledge. We're expecting that to come online next fiscal year, but that itself is suppressing our overall TOT figure by about $3 million.
Do you know how many beds we're talking about?
Yeah, between the 3 properties, it's 450, 500 beds total.
Quite, yeah.
That's significant.
Yeah.
And it was a new property that was humming along pre-COVID. They were doing, it was an outstanding property for us. We still obtain lease revenue from the site, so we're still seeing some general fund money come through that. That's not affected by the site-specific tax pledge, but that was a construct that was used as a development enhancement. The banks at the time were not lending capitally to hospitality, and this was a structure that was needed to kind of get them over the fence. But unfortunately, it's one that post-COVID has been a real impact for us. So there's a chance that snaps back, and we get a good portion of that back into the next fiscal year budget. That'll help a lot, but we're just not quite there yet with our projections to know definitively.
So also a very cursory question as it pertains to TOT, but are we collecting TOT on any kind of like short-term lodging units?
Yeah,
Or
that is prohibited. Short-term lodging is prohibited in our code. Yeah, anything under 30 days. So all TOT should be funneling to the hotel properties at large, as it is, VRBO's short-term rentals are not allowed.
Okay. Do you,
Is that going to change with the Olympics? Are you making some sort of accommodation with that?
No, it's a tough one because in the coastal zone, that kind of a change, it's unclear that we could ever change it back. We're able to maintain that prohibition in the code because it predates the Coastal Act. So it's one of those LCP issues that we're not, you might have read in paper, Manhattan Beach or Mosa Beach have struggled with that. They've tried to impose regulations that they bypass coastal to implement. Coastal said, wait a minute, this is an LCP change. This is contrary to their coastal access mission. It's a strange thing though, short-term rentals are somewhat incongruous to what the State Department of Housing is wanting to see. They want to see these properties be available for longer-term use, not short-term use. So the state's they're in this weird conflict right now, different departments with different priorities. Depending on what side of the aisle you're on, you might advocate for one over the other.
Well, it's interesting
Sorry for
that
interrupting you.
this discussion came up because I had the same exact discussion with my husband just the other night, and I know that it really doesn't relate to public amenities, so to speak,
Right.
but that was a question that I was going to eventually ask you if there was a possibility to do, some exception, right, for these particular events.
Yeah, once we create that exception, there's some concern we can't maintain the integrity of our original prohibition. So
Do you have any idea how many are out there in Redondo?
yeah, we've done some work. We've done a lot of noticing for those who are unaware of the rule or perhaps aware and violating the rule. But yeah, several hundred properties have been, annually marketed in our community.
Estimate of potential revenue?
There were some early estimates. I mean, they range depending on success and cost. I mean, for anywhere from a couple $100,000 a year, perhaps, to $1 million. But the theory is that, if folks comply with the rule and there's a market for short-term lodging here, they should presumably be then staying in hotels instead.
Yeah,
So we're hoping that as more people comply with the code, it'll direct folks to our hotels.
Are the notices effective?
They have been.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, we did a pretty big push last year, and they were pretty effective. So
And is there enforcement as well that's going on?
there is. It's complaint-based primarily at this point. We're trying to, that advance notice was trying to get out in front of that so people would comply with the law. Most of the time, what we're doing, though, given our limited resources, is reacting to neighborhood complaints where you might have sustained activity, that, noise, parties, et cetera. We don't have too much of that right now, at least rising to my level, but we have had that in the past. Yeah.
You have more?
I worked very extensively on with the city when it came to short-term lodging units, and it was a coastal city as well. So, it's a very politicized kind of topic, as you know. It ultimately came down to like zoning specific areas for allowing it. But the reason I was asking, and the reason why I think this conversation is pertinent to the discussion of this, is that like last year when we were having this conversation, we discussed like budget shortfalls or revenue shortfalls, and that definitely affects like budget input, right? So, I'm just particularly curious about like how are we going to make up TOT kind of revenue that's being lost? Obviously, like sales tax revenue dropping, and then also with property, the price of like houses here, there's a lot of volatility with property tax as well, right? Because I believe LA County, you can have your property reassessed after a certain period, right? And then if there is a refund due, and typically the trend is when every property value goes down, then that's also a risk to the city if they have to, right? So
yeah, there's the potential that the property tax tends to be a little bit, it runs off a kind of a retrospective curve for the most part, right? So in a sustained recession, there's that risk where people, property values have declined, they petition to reassess, and we saw a lot of that kind of 08, 9, 10, 11, 12. What we have historically benefited from is the other side of that whip, where more often than not, the people that are selling their property are selling it still, even with maybe housing prices flattening out, are selling it at an assessed value that's much greater than its previously assessed value. So more often than not right now, we still have enough older stock in the community, enough initial or older generational homeowners that are now selling for the first time, where that reassessment is going from, say, a couple $100,000 now to something closer to our median number. So we'll see big gains with properties that turn over generationally. And those tend to offset the losses for perhaps somebody that bought a couple years ago and might have to short sell it a little bit. So property tax for us has been pretty sustainably on a positive 3 to 5%, I would say, curve. Okay. For the last kind of 10 years. It'll take quite a bit to flatten that out. It'll take a couple of years of sustained economic recession. So I view property tax as a pretty dependable one for us in the short term. The transfer tax is another we're unique. We have actually our own transfer tax. We're one of the few cities in the county that have it. So in addition, when somebody sells a home in the city, they pay the transfer tax to the county. Then we have a small transfer tax that's assessed here locally. That is affected by a stagnant market because we have fewer sales. And that number's been 2.5 to 3 million a year of late, whereas there were in the boom cycle, it was maybe several more $1 million a year. So we're okay there. Sales tax is down. I think sales tax will be down about 1% or 2%. It won't be dramatic. We don't have the big box retail where you have these big boom bust cycles. We don't have auto dealerships. Really, we have a handful, but they're relatively minor. So you don't need the boom bust cycles in the economy don't affect our sales tax quite as much. We're spread out amongst many small kind of businesses, right? Restaurants, smaller grocery stores, Target, Total Wine. Our mall is operating at about 20% of its high point. So, that one, we're not exposed from a volatile standpoint. So sales tax has really a lot of upside for us if we were to see redevelopment. We're running in a kind of a really flat line, low, kind of, I would say, 2 to 3 year period.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have too much concern overall about volatility. I just want to see TOT back, and that's really what.
Yeah, I was a TOT tax auditor for a coastal city, so I'm very well aware of trends when it comes to TOT specifically. And it's just surprising that even post COVID that we're not at the occupancy it seems like we should be during pre-COVID times.
I think so. And that's with our ADRs coming down too. Our ADRs have pulled back quite a bit.
What's the city's TOT rate right now? 10?
We're at 12. And actually, that's one thing that the council has taken up. We are preparing for a ballot measure to go to our residents.
15 is, I think, market.
Yeah, next spring to take it up to up to 3 additional percent. The council would then act on the percentage input.
Yeah, 12 is low.
Yeah, we're low right now.
Yeah.
We have the TMD, the Tourism Management District, that self-assesses an additional 1% that they collect for marketing purposes. But yeah, we will have a ballot measure in front of the residents next spring asking that question, and hopefully that'll be successful because that could be a big boom for us.
Okay. And then my last point is, so as our chair said earlier, we have been working kind of on we have a subcommittee established to kind of put together ideas to present, to either you or the council, ultimately on, I think we decided on a wish list capacity, kind of for the next budget cycle, and then long-term projects that would be either CIP projects or something to include in that capacity. While you're here, is there any kind of methodology you would prefer, have in terms of us communicating that information?
Yeah, appreciate the question. I think you're all on the right track. I mean, just a bulleted list, the more, to the extent you can prioritize it, even better. And you don't have to, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you want to just give me an expansive list of kind of ideas, concepts, programs, projects that you'd like us to consider, that would be fine. That can be transmitted by your subcommittee through Dana to me. You don't have to, it doesn't stop tonight, as an example. You can think on it. But yeah, anything that sort of shows your collective prioritization, and you can distribute it via email, letter, however the subcommittee wants to present that information.
So what we were doing is I was looking at the budget, and I was literally pulling out, this project could be a general fund allocation. This could be a CIP budget. I was taking funding sources from the proposed budget and kind of mirroring this possibly, just to
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you can identify a possible funding source, you're obviously familiar with this stuff. Open space funds, Quimby funds can be used for park projects. You can reference, that's what we're paying. The aviation park, pickleball park court project is funded through Quimby. You can try to connect those dots, but don't feel like you have to. I mean, all I need is concepts that resonate, and it's like, hey, Amenities Commission thinks X, Y, and Z are a priority from their point of view. Let's see where we're at with our own internal requests. Maybe we can mash them up and fund a couple of those this year, right? That's the way I look at it. And of course, you're not the only commission I'm talking to. I'll get input from Harbor and a number of others. But the idea is, if they're on paper in front of me and I'm talking to staff, like, well, hey, that there's some synergy with that idea and this. Maybe we can get the scope of work to kind of mesh and get a couple things done.
And then in an ideal world, when would you like that by?
Ideally, in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Because our CIP development will begin in earnest here in kind of really mid to late April. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have some
Yeah.
comments?
Commissioner Lang had put together some recommendations, priority budget requests, and it was in part of our blue packet folder at our last meeting. And then I submitted my thoughts on that as well, and I had a couple of items. I think they were part of
Strategic plan?
Strategic plan. It wound up in there, I hope.
Yeah, it did. Your comment, we had two individual emails.
Yeah.
We circulated that commentary to the council as part of their agenda packet. They considered it, and there was some conversation about a few of those items.
So that was my question is, do you want us to take that and then put the list together from that and
that would be fine.
The rest or that discussion has already happened and
well, you still have an opportunity. So you'll get two bites at this apple. This opportunity is really to give me insights as I prepare the budget. Once the budget is proposed, you'll have an opportunity as a collective commission to make comments and to advise the council on my particular recommendations, right? Hey, great that staff proposed X, Y, and Z, but we really think you ought to consider A and B as well, right? Whatever that feedback looks like. All right, Mike's crazy, he's asking you to do this, that. There's so many other priorities, that whatever that might be. So you'll have another chance to do that and react to the document itself. Now it's just concept work for me to go, oh, okay, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe we can fund that through this concept or something else. So if the earlier I get that feedback, the more I can perhaps finesse possible outcomes.
well, interesting that the aviation park pickleball is still part of the conversation. I didn't even include it in my notes.
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, we're at that point, right? That's been partially funded for a while. I know there's been some demand. We obviously focused on Alta Vista Park as the first kind of pickleball stepping stone. Well, that was after doing some of the smaller one-off courts, as you know. But our internal sequence was always, once Alta Vista's done, it's time to now turn our attention to designing the larger facility at at Aviation. So we're bringing on a consultant to prepare that design. You might have seen what Torrance recently did. They're using a Sourcewell cooperatively kind of a piggyback bid concept to actually construct their courts. And I thought, well, that's interesting. We now have the discretion in our charter to do more creative design build work under our Public Works contracting code. So that's something actually Andy and I, our Public Works Director, talked about today, saying, hey, well, let's look at their contract and see if that's an opportunity for us, because maybe we can bypass some of the traditional design, then bid, then construct type sequence. Maybe we can accelerate this a bit. So we're going to be creative, but it's top of mind. That's the next kind of pickleball facility on the list. And among, again, other capital projects, of course, not the only thing we're doing.
Great.
Did you want to ask about statistical information on that?
Statistical information?
Yeah, because we're talking budget and how much money is coming in from the reservation system. I think you.
Oh, well, that was, since you're here. So I had a question as to how we're going to collect the data to know how we're doing over there at Alta Vista. and to see,
Is court rental wise?
yeah, so to see if, how fast we're going to get to our return on our investment there. I mean, I've been telling all my friends to go down there, so.
Yeah, good question. I've been curious about that too, as you can imagine. Had some preliminary conversations. We haven't formalized a reporting structure. I mean, we have our traditional Alta Vista court reservation system that logs this information, and so that data exists. We just haven't stopped to compile it yet, but we do plan to do a bit of a check-in on it.
Yeah, that was one of the questions actually on my, on the recommendations for the strategic plan, is to actually conduct an analysis of that reservation system, because I know Torrance they use the same reservation system, and in the past it hasn't been as sophisticated as they needed. And so my question was, how does that translate, to our needs here in Redondo Beach, to make sure that we're maximizing, any opportunity for revenue, and to see what we can do about, increasing programming, changing programming, providing, opportunities for, lessons for the students, and other things like that.
So maximizing opportunity. Using analytics to do that. No, it's a great concept. I have not received any commentary internally from community services staff about the deficiencies of our system. I mean, it seems to track at least the basic information that they need, but I certainly will be querying kind of where we're at with that as we evaluate the efficacy of the new courts and kind of what we're seeing down there.
I think in general, it would be helpful, at least for me, I'm hopefully my commissioners will agree with this, is that, in order for us to provide feedback on the programming, it's helpful for us to see data.
Yeah.
And I'm referencing El Segundo. They provide their Parks and Rec Commission with pretty detailed reports. And, we want to be helpful, not be an impediment. We want to work with you guys because we care about our city.
Yeah.
So in order for me to, to have like a thoughtful response to the budget, it would be helpful to have more data, not just, just to talk about potential projects, but, opportunities to, for improvements, or even, for example, the senior programming. I think, remember I had come in to talk to you with my neighbor, and we did this massive spreadsheet. Even for something like that, what we could do.
It's not just facilities, it's programs and services too. And I know we've done a better job. I've seen more of it internally, assembling that data. We were hyper-focused on the after-school program for a while. Teen Center, of course, has been a big focus of late. We're seeing great use of that facility. I mean, it really 4X what we had pre-improvements. And staff continue to try to innovate. We're using the Youth Commission as a great sounding board for a lot of those programs, and that's been really helpful. Our senior programming is coming along. We've restored our lunch program. We're starting to grow that again. So, that data is important. We talked a lot about that, and I'll see what we can do on that front, and perhaps the first sort of trial balloon of that surrounds the pickleball.
Yeah, we know that you guys, your staff is, maxed out time-wise. So whatever it is we can do, and as a matter of fact, later on we'll be talking about preservation as well. Is that, that's, we committed to doing, I speak for myself, but I know that they'll agree as well. We committed ourselves to doing this job because we want to help.
Right.
And so, utilize us in any way that is helpful for staff and for the council.
Yeah. No, and we appreciate your commitment. This commission's been great. I mean, you have been the sort of the first of this consolidated format, and it's been very useful and efficient. So we're very pleased with all of your work and your volunteerism. It's been very helpful. So I'll take that to heart. We'll see what we can do. And reporting is, and I love it. I mean, we all love it. It's,
Yeah.
do a lot of it in police. We do a lot of it in fire.
Yeah.
Library, Dana's got all the stats, he could spout them off to you right now. So it's, these analytics are important for how we value our programs. So appreciate it.
All right, anything else?
I have a
Yeah.
quick,
Mr. McCauley, you have?
Mike, thank you for being here.
Sure.
These are good sessions to have, and I'm glad to see that you already have the information on the snack bar and at Alta Vista Park. Hopefully that'll be on then after the pickleball courts. That'll kind of be the next thing.
Yeah.
One question I have, one concern that we've talked about in the past is the 190th corridor with the power lines.
Yeah.
And that
Transmission lines.
transmission lines eventually coming down and the land becoming eventually repurposed in some way. There's ideas, hopefully, in the community that we would see some sort of recreational use for that land, but I know there's some barriers that are pretty significant that would be in the way. I remember last time, the first barrier was time. It's way off. The poles aren't coming down anytime soon. And then there's is it the purchasing of the land that would be needed, right? We would have to.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few things now. On the plus side, right, the power plant's no longer operating, so we no longer have to deal with all that comes with that. It's in the ownership's in a precarious state. There's dispute over who currently owns and controls the property and fee. There was a purchase and sale agreement that was entered into. There were claims by AES, the former owner, that the purchaser hadn't met the conditions of that, so there was a default action that was taken that was delayed by a bankruptcy action involving one of the LLCs that was part of the purchase and sale agreement. That has not yet resolved. Further complicating the process is the fact that AES as an international company is being purchased by a new BlackRock and a consortium of other companies forming a new entity that's buying AES. So don't exactly know what their intentions will be as it relates to the disposition of the property, what position they'll take in the bankruptcy matter. So we're in a kind of a wait and see kind of period.
And for a good bit longer too, for a good few years.
Yeah, and the transmission lines, right, become their kind of own thing, right? Depending on the ultimate use of the site, they either are or are not useful. There's a few scenarios where they could still be useful. There are a few scenarios, or many scenarios, where they wouldn't be. And then it's whose responsibility would it be to then ultimately eliminate that infrastructure and repurpose the turnaround site, which is currently at the switch, which is owned by Edison. There's a license agreement, an access agreement, effectively an easement for a portion of the power plant site that hosts Edison's switch, right, where the power comes in and then goes back out. That switch is relevant to the grid as a whole. So that switch would have to be picked up and moved, or they call it a turnaround. A new turnaround would have to be installed somewhere upstream, for lack of a better analogy.
It seems like that timeline was.
Yeah, so who compels that? Who pays for that? What conditions need to ultimately be met for that work to be a priority among all of Edison's other stuff, right? All their other projects and the like. So there's a lot of variables there. Obviously, we all want to see the transmission corridor come down, and certainly if it's no longer needed. So, but we'll see. There's a few different entities.
How would the city prepare for that? Like, what could the city do? So let's say in X number of years, that land is going to come available and it could be transitioned to parkland. What would you recommend the city do in advance of that, or do we just wait until?
The only thing that the city really can do, I mean, it has a couple of choices, right? It could invest in property acquisition, which doesn't mean necessarily that that opportunity is immediately in front of us, right? There are other suitors in that respect. It can incentivize redevelopment that encourages that type of repurposing, and that incentivization can occur through land use changes, or it can occur through and I don't mean the AES side, I mean the transmission corridor itself. So there are things you can do with the site to perhaps encourage Edison to act, but you can't do that in an isolated way. You have to do that vis-a-vis everything else that's occurring along the corridor. So, there's, at this point, given the nature of the litigation that's involved and everything else, we really are in a wait-and-see position.
Okay.
And, we were the subject of some litigation brought by the prospective purchaser of the site. We've been in, we have, I don't know, 8 to 10 active cases with that individual now, or that group, that consortium of LLCs.
So the power plant itself is still in limbo as well, right? That is.
Well, the power plant as a facility in terms of its operation is dormant. It is shut down in its current configuration. Once through cooling, which that site relied upon to generate power, is no longer allowed, and there is no permit for that to reoccur. Now, what future version of power generation could be conceptualized? I mean, who knows? I mean, there's any number of things that could occur over time at that location, depending on who owns it and what they intend to try to do with it, right?
So theoretically, it could still be a power generation facility.
I mean, it's zoned for that. It's zoned for that. That's an eligible use. That's an allowable use. If there were to be a buyer that wanted to find a way to build a modernized facility to generate power, they could file an application with the CPUC or the Energy Commission and perhaps reconstruct a modern facility. They couldn't use once through cooling as a component of that, but they'd have to be a completely different type of system. Yeah, so it is zoned for, I forget the exact nomenclature now, but it's power and, it's basically PPG and park and open space. It's like
Does Redondo Beach have the sole deciding on what its zone is?
No, and that's the other part. So that's a great question. So it's inside the coastal zone, which means that it's subject. So we have a local coastal program that enshrines our current zoning. So the zoning that includes public utility, power, PPG, and park and open space. And again, my apologies. I don't know. It's PPG or PPU, or I forget what exactly that is. It might just be PPO under our current code. But that's enshrined further in our LCP, which is approved by the Coastal Commission. So any changes to the land use plan would then have to be also affirmed by the Coastal Commission and through an amendment in our LCP.
Up to what point on 190th does the Coastal
PCH,
have?
up to Pacific Coast Highway.
So beyond PCH,
we have full control east of Pacific Coast Highway.
We have full control over the zoning.
Over the zoning, yes.
So and with the power plant being non-operational, shut down, can we rezone that theoretically now?
Theoretically, we could rezone it subject to Article 27, which is the citizens initiative that, so if you effectively intensify the use under the zoning, we first have to act as a city council, city administratively, and then we have to have that action approved by the voters.
So intensify.
Great example, like it's currently zoned for, transmission corridor, right? It's public right of way, whatever it is. And let's say we were going to put housing on it. Theoretically, that would, actually, no, housing wouldn't be subject to Article 27 because that now under state law is something we have to act on. We can act on administratively. A better example would be, let's say we wanted to zone it for hotel or a commercial use, an intensified commercial use.
Would recreational use be something that we can zone as?
That recreational use may actually be consistent with the current zoning. There are some uses.
We're a pretty park poor city, right? And there's an opportunity for the land to be developed into park, recreation park, kind of both. Not zoned as housing, not zoned for hotels, not zoned for commercial. I think the community would be more in support of that. Of recreation.
Yeah, the challenge would then be what financial source would exist to perhaps incentivize Edison to spend the millions of dollars to remove the infrastructure. So
and with that thought, and being that this is years away, there could be, if properly motivated, a plan and to kind of get that going, do you think? Or is it still a
Well, I
wait and
mean,
see?
it would probably require a commitment from our residents to tax themselves to support funding,
Right,
to ultimately support.
because it would be,
the-
because we would have to pay for that land outright.
Yeah, well,
Or get a
Edison,
coalition of funds.
Edison, we do license portions of that land currently from Edison on a 5-year increments. The great example, we're building the new open space area now just west of PCH. That's under a 5-year license. Dominguez Park is another example. We have licensed space that we renew. The bike path is another example of that. So there are some things we can do even while the transmission corridor exists, but it is limited, right? We can't build backstops. We can't build ball fields. We can't put
Yeah, right
cultural
now,
centers.
because the poles are still there.
Yeah, exactly. So what we would presumably need to do is figure out a way to, whatever number that is, that hasn't been really explored. I mean, we have some sense of what it would cost for them to take down the corridor and turn it around. We did they called a method of service study a few years back, and I think the estimate for them to turn around the corridors at our eastern boundary, kind of there at Dominguez was, I don't know, $25 million effort, something like that. So let's say hypothetically, we would need to pay for that.
Yeah.
We would need to figure out a funding source to do that. And then we would need to incentivize, we would also need to fundraise for whatever recreational amenities we would ultimately
But
want to build.
in the meantime, we could rezone it for recreation. Could we then minimally make it recreation, like make it nature, like without like putting any concrete in, just make it pathways?
Yeah, I mean, the open space park we're
Yeah, like
building right
something like
now is
that.
effectively that. It's
Kind of claiming it as like a nature walk from PCH East.
Yeah.
And then eventually with the proper fundraising transition. Now, would the lawsuits that are in effect and the litigation ongoing prevent us from doing just that?
No, and to your point earlier, we wouldn't even need to rezone it for that. Those are eligible uses under the current zoning. So if we were to expand the open space corridor, we've got this park, and it's not cheap, by the way, that open space.
Yeah, I imagine, yeah. It's still
That
cost-
area, a couple acres in size is a, $800,000, $1 million endeavor. So but theoretically, we could license, now the nurseries have licenses in that space
So you
currently.
could license it to a nonprofit organization that could reutilize the property into a open space.
Edison could, they could issue licenses to a not-for-profit.
Edison could issue the license? Not the city.
Edison owns the property, so they
We'd have to go
control the license. They prefer to license it to municipalities. I think they seem to be more comfortable with that, but they also love nurseries. I mean, they've licensed, and those
Had 'em for a long
those
time.
spaces have been recently licensed by a nursery.
Because I think from what I've heard recently with the nurseries no longer on that location, I think a lot of people are seeing the land now, like, because it's empty, right? You're driving
Yeah.
by and you're like, my goodness, that's a
big
good-
swath
it's a
of
big
land.
spot. And, it's, what is it going to be or what can it be? A lot of those questions are coming up.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of, top of mind on a lot of people right now in Redondo, and it'd be nice to get ahead of that in some way, and to also get ahead of it I think I speak for probably our fellow commissioners, that to get ahead of it with the purpose of recreation, of
Sure.
being not housing or hotels or
Sure.
commercial, and I think that's the sentiment that a lot of people are trying.
Yeah, there's no doubt a linear park from Dominguez down to the coast would be amazing, right? That's something we've long strived for. So, no, I think that's on everybody's mind. It just comes down to opportunity and resources.
So the real revenue kicker then would be to have a self-tax us now, get it on the ballot, essentially.
You'd have to do
It's going to
something.
be
Yeah,
tens of millions.
It would be, yes. The challenge with that, of course, is certainty, lack of certainty. It's hard for us to conceptualize some type of a measure where we
Put a
can't.
tax on that, could people vote on a tax like that and then whoops, we can't get the property? then what do we
You
with the
could do
money?
you could do an if-then kind of a scenario, possibly, not collect, not raise funds, not do things unless you gain control. There would perhaps be a way to do that. But there just isn't enough clarity coming from Edison or the disposition of the AES site to know is there an opportunity for the city or not? And that's,
Could the city be a catalyst to push that, or is it just you're kind of up
well,
against it?
we have to be a little bit careful when it comes to the property disposition, specifically on AES, right? One of the lawsuits was effectively a takings claim that the city had acted to devalue the site so it would ultimately have to become open space. So you have to, the city has to act very carefully when it comes to property disposition for property it does not own or control. We have full right over zoning and all of land use matters. That is fully within our purview. And we, by action, as you can see, took the proactive action to license the Edison site west of Pacific Coast Highway, east of Francisca, for the purpose of installing an open space area to activate that for, park-like purpose. I mean, that we have done that. I mean, we're in the process of doing it. That's the project. So we would, if funding were available for us to continue that effort, I think we would do it. But there is a bit of a risk in that, right? We are doing that with a short-term license. We're not doing that with 50 years of property certainty. So we're hoping that whatever occurs, whether the power lines were to stay for another decade or two or somehow come down, that we'll be able to continue that public use.
Yeah.
So we're dipping our toe. We're doing it, we think, strategically, carefully, cautiously. And certainly if we could all wave a magic wand, we'd love to see the linear park there. It'd be fabulous. But there are, property rights are an important consideration, so.
Well, I didn't mean to take a long time
That
on
was
that.
a very interesting discussion.
I thank you. You've always been on top of that, so I'm really glad to get an update from you as
Yeah, I
well.
wish we had, sometimes I wish we had better updates for you all on that, but it can be a little frustrating.
Yeah.
We had hoped that this matter would have been wrapped up and disposed of much more quickly than it has.
In the beginning, it kind of seemed like it was going fast. And then all
Yeah,
of a sudden-
I was told early on, but hey, federal bankruptcy, Ron knows all about this. There's a specific time frame. Oh, these cases, the court loves to wrap it up in a year or less. I'm like, well, here we are 3 years later. Seems to be, what I've learned about the court system, there seems to be almost a indefinite number of ways to continue matters, so.
Yeah.
But, Mr. Morocco could probably better
I have two
articulate.
questions.
Yes,
Since you brought up Dominguez
have a
Park,
quick
do we have any updates on that?
on Dominguez?
Yeah.
The fences came down yesterday. Park's open.
That's fantastic news.
We got our letter from the LEA yesterday.
Perfect.
Yes.
And then I have another question.
There were people in there this morning, I'm told.
Different people the last couple
They
of
were there
weeks.
the day before, too.
They were there the day before.
Go ahead, ask your question.
My other question was, so what movement is there as far as the King Harbor sign possibly designating that a landmark ahead of doing the work so that we can apply for a grant to pay for it?
There's not any movement on our end
Yeah.
to, when I say our, meaning city staff's end, to pursue the designation. I understand there was a group that perhaps might have filed materials associated with it. I don't know exactly what the status of that is. We are still putting together the maintenance agreement, the painting and sign installation agreement per council direction. I don't know if we'll have that back. I'm sure it's still a few weeks out. We had some contracting work to do with the firm. So I don't know exactly what the timing of that work is, but it's probably in the next couple of months foreseeably.
So there wouldn't be any way for us to get the sign designated and then apply for a CLG grant?
I shouldn't say that there isn't any way. That's a policy matter, policy decision. We have pretty clear direction on what we're intending to do with the repair of the existing sign. That is not an item that has come up yet as directed by the council or through the strategic plan or our work plan.
Okay, I get to ask some questions now, and then I'll come back to Commissioner Yusufi. On the same subject of landmarking, is there any progress towards Wilderness Park being designated? Or at least getting the consent of the city to sign off on the actual
I was
application?
told that there was, but I don't have the specifics for you. I also was told that our signs at Ito Park, I have been blessed and that we're close to fabrication on that. So but I don't have those specifics. I'll try to find them for you.
Okay, and then similar to that, so we have a couple of buildings that are going to be going down that have significant, similar to the Redondo Beach Harbor sign, like Joe Kirby's been shut down, and it's who knows how long it's going to take to get the remediation that probably needs to be done there. But that sign would be a nice one to move to, like a small area of Dominguez Park down by the Torrance side, where you can put signs like that, or there's another one that's further down the street on PCH that would actually kind of make a little mini park in there with regards to the sign. So I know it has not been brought up to anybody yet, but I'm looking around as I'm walking around about different.
So basically, I mean, it kind of goes back to the old Millie Riere sign, you know.
It'd be a little touristy area where people can come and, you know, be nostalgic, have a couple of benches underneath some of these old signs. You wouldn't have to light them necessarily, but just throwing that one out there. I went to my councilperson's meeting last Saturday, and they were talking about Perry Allison Park and repurposing it so it gets more use. I do know that Commissioner Lang has been looking for a place to do a community garden. I got booed very heavily when I suggested a pickleball court over there because of all the noise, but it does have enough acreage and enough, it's a very well-watered area that it might be a good location for at least part of the area being used as a community garden in North Redondo.
Yeah, it's a good thought. The challenge we face with some of our percats, and that one is one that has come up in the past as an option for repurposing, is that new amenities, depending on what they are, may engender accessibility requirements, and it's difficult to meet the parking accessibility requirement without significant street work and paving work. So that's where the new amenities can become a little problematic, because those sites don't have dedicated parking or parking facilities. So you have to rely on basically a right-of-way handicap spot, and then you have to have a safe path of travel to the new amenity. So that creates challenges sometimes. And that's been limiting, I think, for Perry.
There's been about 10 to 15 spaces that we saw on 190th Street that could be made available for people going to community garden.
The regular parking isn't necessarily the problem. It's just where do you site the accessible space or spaces depending on the volume, and then how do you migrate the path of travel to the new amenity in a conforming way. That's been the challenge over time for us enhancing our parkettes.
Okay.
Typically.
Well, that was Commissioner Lang's question about the community garden. Ito Park funding, I understand is being carried over already, so I don't have to.
Yeah, the sign stuff, that one got carried from last year. We intend to continue to execute that project, yes.
And that actually I've been told is nearing fabrication. We're going to get a mock-up.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm hearing. So
yeah,
I don't have an ETA, but I'm hearing that.
And the Path of History signs, I guess, are also carrying over. It looks like the new concept that Elizabeth came up with, and the sign is that Jack's come up with the fabrication is working. So one of my subcommittees is recognizing historical landmarks. We have 150. You gave me an estimate with regards to putting in bricks in the sidewalk. Most of it's labor. So I had a question about the internal charging of the labor. I mean, it's going to be public works personnel. So do you have a fixed rate that gets to it? And is that a separate budgetary item?
It's not as well, it's, there's a lot to that. We have a published rate schedule because it's what we apply to restitution issues or special events. So that's what we use to derive those numbers. That's a fully loaded rate based on the number of personnel involved. When it comes to a budgetary item, what we'll often do for things like that, it may be there's an individualized appropriation, a one-time appropriation for overtime for personnel to perhaps install certain projects or improvements or replacements, whatever it might be. So if you're asking, is there a way to make a request for funding for that type of an installation? Sure, it would be a one-time appropriation for additional Public Works part-time staff or overtime resources to complete X, Y, or Z.
So that would be through a memo of understanding?
Well, it would be much like what we do for, say, the Veterans Memorial. That plaque would be handed, whatever we're installing would be handed in whatever sort of construct we would need it to be in, right? If it's a brick or if it's
Right.
whatever it might be, in its proper form to us, and then we would embed through an installation effort.
So as far as the fundraising goes, what we would need to do is basically get the brick taken care of. And then we'd have to negotiate with the city about the labor cost of it. Okay, that makes sense. During your strategic...
Or, more expensively, be prepared to hire a licensed paving contractor to pull a permit and install on behalf of the group. That would be the completely external way to do it. I would encourage you to explore the pricing, but I would venture to guess it probably would be more expensive.
It would also be requiring additional permitting because we'd be ripping up city property to do it.
There would be an engineering permit required, yes.
Right. At your strategic planning committee meeting, there was a discussion about renaming parks. And your community services director said it's so low on the totem pole.
She's been working on a policy, perhaps, yes.
This is the ideal commission that you should throw out, since she projected 6 to 8 months. Give us the opportunity to do it. I have one former chair of Parks and Recs over here, another one over here that was a former chair, and a third person who has been on the Parks and Recs Commission. And they would be an ideal group of people to actually come up with drafting something that the city obviously has to approve, but that may be a good use of us over here, because I'm seeing, we can have a separate discussion about how to make this commission more effective when we don't have certain of the departments represented here. But that would be something that would be great if it can come back to us.
I appreciate that. That's a good idea.
On the preservation side, so one of the things we've talked about in the past is that there's no communication to the owners, and the council has said they want to do outreach. So we have a subcommittee to do outreach. Does the postage aspect and the research on getting to the current owners so a letter can be sent to them, is that part of the community development budget? Do we have to budget line item that separately?
Of course, having identified funding for that initiative would always be helpful. There is a recurring line item for postage, mailers, for traditional public hearing noticing, things that would occur naturally through the course and conduct of just their regular business. Now, is there sufficient capacity in that to take on that type of a mailer? I'd have to ask Mark to opine on that within existing resource. But possibly yes, but a one-time appropriation for that specific initiative would be helpful as a...
Yeah, because we're about, I think, 1,500 people on that list right now, the resources. Good news on the Dominguez Park opening.
There will be a ribbon cutting at some point. We'll formally open the site now that we're clear. But we didn't want to wait to take the fences down for that.
So this is something I actually volunteered to Elizabeth. We have that fountain that's beautiful in the Heritage Court.
Yep.
We don't have the benches we used to, and one of the benches is cracked, and I'd volunteered to buy outdoor benches, and whatever happened to them happened to them. But I got declined on that request, but it would be nice to have a sitting area. It's now that you have the rose gardens blooming really well and the fountains working and a lot of traffic going into the.
Well, did you, well, maybe we could talk offline about this, but what type of bench did you, if, as long as the bench is that's being proposed for donation comports with our requirements, right? It's the right type of concrete or structure, it has the right sort of architecture to it, we can accept those donations. So, but those are fairly expensive, so I wasn't.
It's not one of the metal kind or concrete kind,
Okay.
but it does support 850 pounds, and it's an outdoor type bench,
Okay.
so it's a wooden bench.
Okay.
And if it lasts, I told Elizabeth, if it lasts 5 years, great. If it lasts 1 year, it's more than 1 year more than what we have now, but.
Well, we could talk on another time about that possibility.
Okay, and then I think my last point is going to be on staffing. Our staffing levels do you anticipate them going up over the next year?
Well, I would love for them to go up if we had revenue to support them. I imagine staffing levels will be fairly flat over the next 2 years, just given where we're at with our core budget. So there may be a few one-off exceptions to that. There's a lot of special event activity right now. There's some things that you may see me propose in the budget to address, what's happening in 2026 and then leading up to the Olympics. But generally speaking, this will be a more austere presentation of the budget this year.
Okay. Do you have another question?
I did. I'll go quick, I promise. I have just a quick cursory question as it pertains, and I won't ask specifics of it. I won't have this forum for that. But as we discuss the budget, I usually look at an ACFR and I look to see, what the budget actuals are in an ACFR, MD&A, any kind of deviations, major things. Obviously, we discussed, a few as it pertains to revenue.
Yep.
Did the city issue their 2025 ACFR?
Yeah, it's still in motion.
Same thing with your single audit?
Same. Both are still in progress. We were delayed in finalizing our 23, 24 ACFR. That was completed. We, I don't know if you follow this, but we changed auditors going into the 23, 24 cycle.
It's a longer audit cycle.
There were some new GASB requirements. It was a pretty laborious process. We got through it. We're going to be quicker about closing out, I think, 24, 25, but that is in motion probably the next couple of months.
One of the main reasons I wanted to ask, and I took a look at the CIFA schedule for the 2024 single audit to see how many type A grants we have, because one of the things we talk about a lot, and one of the things I've asked a couple of directors previously and over the years of kind of being involved with the commission work is the solicitation of grants, especially as it pertains to park redevelopment. There's so many opportunities with, federal funding sources to help. We just had a pretty long conversation about, park redevelopment, anything. And I'm just looking at the 24 CIFA for for context, and there's only 2 type A grants. One is a HUD Section 8 voucher one, and then one is a DOT one. So there's nothing in here on the CIFA schedule as it pertains to parks. And as we talk about, the budget, it might be a good area to kind of explore, different opportunities. And and I know professionally, there's so many opportunities as it pertains to park redevelopment, but I haven't heard any kind of undertaking of that. When we're talking about revenue shortfalls and doing stuff, I think that's kind of.
No, it's a great thought. We do a really great job pursuing county, state, regional funding sources. We've got a lot of grants in that respect, but we have not pursued and been successful in a number of federal grants. With one exception, we did recently receive an award from through Ted Lieu's office for repairs down to our marina, which occurred, which should be flagged, I think, in the 25 audit. But it is something we've been talking about. There's potential, there's a recent proposition that the state has issued that has some access potentially to funds for recreational facilities, open space amenities. So we're looking at those. We submitted a number of requests to the federal government this year. Actually, we did last year as well. We've actually submitted requests to the feds on a citywide basis, pretty substantive list for the last several years. We just have not received much in the way of award.
Even through pass-through grants through the state of California, like, I guess my thing is
Well,
just,
state of California, we've got $10 million for Seaside Lagoon. We got $5 million for open space acquisition at the AES site.
but those are direct funded from the state. I'm talking about like grant funds that are passed through the feds, through the state that are available. So there's like particular programs that are funded strictly from California. And then there's stuff that's offered, that's passed through the state.
Yeah, we have not, it's funny, I'll ask staff about what precisely we've pursued, but we have not had a lot of success at the federal level, even on the pass-through grants. And I don't know if it's subject of our demographics, or I couldn't tell you exactly why. But it's something I'll certainly follow up on and see, if there's other potential out there for us.
Yeah, and again, I'm saying specifically as it comes to like park redevelopment, that's something that I think we all,
absolutely,
there's a lot, and I know, just saying professionally speaking, there's a lot of NOFAs that are issued for park redevelopment.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about funding sources on how to get certain projects done, it might be a good kind of avenue
if you're aware of a few NOFAs on right now, obviously the gun range is a big NOFA focus, right? We're going to be resubmitting for that in June. But if there's other NOFAs that you're familiar with that you think we might be eligible for, send them my way.
I'm going to spam you.
Fine,
okay.
I'll pass it right off to staff, and we'll evaluate. We have a hired grant writer that's on standby for us to help pursue these things. We just haven't seen a lot of success at the federal level, and I know we query a lot of it. I just don't know what it is that's that barrier for us right now.
Okay, yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate the thought.
Well, we appreciate you coming down here. Any last words before we?
No.
Actually, I got one last question. I'm sorry to go back to 190th and the corridor. As it is right now, the nurseries are gone.
Well, they're back. There's a nursery that's coming back.
Oh, there is a nursery.
Yeah, there's a nursery that's actually licensed in space. You're seeing them kind of repopulate the spaces.
Okay, is there any available space there?
There was, you remember the area that was pretty wet in the recent rains for an extended period? I wasn't sure, there was some talk about the nursery potentially relinquishing that licensed space, but I've since seen activity down there. I think they might actually be moving back into that. But I owe Diane Forte a call, our Edison rep.
And Edison maintains those leases and whatnot.
Yeah,
so,
they license that space.
So if an entity wanted to use that space, they would go through.
It'd be a license from Edison, yeah.
Okay, and they would they do temporary, like rentals, like short-term rentals of the land?
Well, the maximum license term is 5 years. They'll do shorter periods as well.
Right.
But there's significant limitations on what you can put underneath.
So you couldn't do, you couldn't do like a public event.
No, you cannot erect poles or structures of any kind. You are significantly constrained on what you can do to activate the space.
Basically, use it as storage is what they.
Yeah, it's storage, ground cover, and even that has some limitations. You can what they call the drip line. You have to maintain a compact surface that they can drive trucks on without impediment. Right. You have limitations on height of vegetation. Anything that you can imagine that could conduct electricity is a big no-no. You have to do grounding and all this other stuff. So it's pretty limiting. The bike path that we've erected solar panel lights on the bike path. That's something we've been able to get approved.
So even if the city made a deal with Edison and contracted out, we're going to rent that space for whatever we want, we would still be limited to
their rules.
And there's no changing those rules.
No changing that. So what you see at Dominguez and what you see at, say, Dale Page Park predates their current right-of-way use policy.
Right.
So we have those are kind of grandfathered in, but the open space development right up the street is a perfect example of kind of what your maximum capacity is. Artesia Boulevard, that we improved the blocks immediately north and south of Artesia in our bike path right-of-way space. Right. We were able to add parking. We added some kind of shielded overhead parking lights. That was heavily scrutinized. We had to keep it out of the drip zone. So it's a laborious process to get through their permitting, and they're very sensitive to maintaining access and creating anything that can cause problems for them. So their priority, as you can imagine, is just access to infrastructure for maintenance purposes, for,
Yeah, if they got to bring in a couple trucks tomorrow. you get-
and
Move all
they
your
don't
stuff.
often do it. That's the sad part is, we have this debate with them all the time, like, yeah, well, just drive over our stuff. We don't care. Well, so it's tough. It's more limiting than you would expect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for
Thank you so
joining
much.
us. You're welcome
Absolutely. Good to
anytime
see
you
you all.
want to come.
Yeah, well, thank you. Appreciate being here. It's always good to get in front of you, and thank you for all the work that you do. And really, this commission in particular has been, really, really enthusiastic and very helpful to us. So thank you for all your work. Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Okay. And, whatever you can get me through your subcommittee, sooner the better, helps us inform our discussion. So, okay.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, I guess we don't need to receive or file anything on that. So let's go to item L2, receive and file presentation outlining Redondo Beach Public Library adult programming. Amy.
Well, I think the last time I talked here, the only person that might remember part of this presentation is Chairperson Morocco. But I'm glad to give it again. I'm Amy Feller. I'm the adult programming librarian for the Redondo Beach Library, which means that I do the adult programs. We have another department that does youth services, which is teens and children younger than teens. Adult program mission is to ensure that the library is a welcoming space and enable people to learn things or be entertained. Adult programs support that mission. It promotes the library. It helps build a relationship with the community. We like to support lifelong learning so that people get a chance to learn something new. People get to use the library resources, whether that be getting a library card to borrow materials or to use our library computers. We want to engage the community and build relationships with the community. That helps raise awareness and visibility of the library. We offer a lot of educational and recreational activities that enhance the quality of life. The way we promote our adult programs is through print flyers. We have flyers for individual programs and monthly flyers. We have digital promotions on our website, our online calendar of events. We have some digital signage. We have Facebook for social media, a little bit of Instagram. We do outreach. We have been going to health fairs and farmers markets and setting up tables. Sometimes we give away books. We always bring program flyers there with us so people know what's happening at the library. When we do adult programs and people come to the programs, pretty much when you get to a program, what you're really seeing is the tip of the iceberg. You're seeing the room set up, you're seeing the presenter up there, an introduction to the presenter, a moderator, but the real work for most of the programs is really beneath the water. It's beneath the iceberg. The concept of the program, researching a program, the details of arranging the program and talking to the presenter, scheduling the program in one of our meeting rooms. We do compete with a lot of the other city departments for our meeting rooms, and promoting the programs. Most of the adult programs that you might see or attend have been months in preparation, from conception till the time they're actually executed. Program types that we have a lot of author talks, mostly local author talks. We have book groups where people read a book and then they get together to discuss the book. We have a in-person book discussion group at our North Branch Library, and we have a Zoom discussion group that meets once a month. We do a lot of local history programs. Some of the recent ones have been one that Ron mentioned. We did the dining in the South Bay, which was the local history of restaurants in the South Bay from the late 1800s through 1945. For that one, our presenter was Richard Foss. He is a food historian, and he's also the restaurant reviewer for the Easy Reader News. That was a two-part program, was wildly popular. There were about 50 people at each presentation. It was fun and funny, entertaining, and educational. We also recently had Lisa Blank, who's a library historian. She talked, she talked last year at our library's 30th birthday party, where she did the history of the Redondo Beach Library, and then she talked this month for dual. It was for Women's History Month, and it was also for the semi-quincentennial, which is the America 250 celebration. She talked about the original librarians for the Redondo Beach Library, the training class they took, which was basically a couple of months, and then their tenure at the libraries. We had, last year we had a Redondo Beach trivia contest, which our librarians put together, our history librarians put together with lots of questions about Redondo Beach trivia. We also do arts and crafts. We have adult crafts. We have multi-generational programs with crafts and drawing. We recently had also for Women's History Month, we had a tea and color program, which was really fun. It got a lot of kids, but it almost had an equal number, I would say, mostly grandparents coming with their kids. That was a lot of fun. We brought in some real teacups. Most of the kids were coloring women's historical figures out of coloring books. We do educational programs, a lot of senior educational programs on safety, finances, health. We've done 3 gardening programs recently. We had the South Bay Parkland Conservancy come and talk. We had the South Coast chapter of the California Native Plant Society come and talk. We had the Water Replenishment District come and talk about water-wise landscaping and gardening that you could do. We have some performances. We have some musical performances. We have some dramatic readings. We have a few film screenings. Our presenters come from community organizations like the Foundation for Senior Services, HELP, which is health and elder care law programs. Those are both 501Cs. Also the South Bay Literacy Council. We have government organizations like the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation come and give programs. We have authors come and give programs. We have subject specialists, musicians and entertainers. So just some pictures of our audiences from recent programs. We have our multi-generational chess program on the bottom left, which is, it was conceptualized by a local high school student, and he brought it to our library, but he started at the Palos Verdes Library, and it was very popular there. So when he presented it to us, we said, yeah, let's give it a try. And that is a fabulous program to come in. Well, if you play chess, participate. If you would just like to see 8-year-olds playing chess against 70-year-olds and usually beating them, it's pretty cool. We've had quite a few of those. We've had the middle bottom picture is Don Hatta. He's a Torrance or a Redondo Beach 87-year-old Japanese American who gave a program last year on the Japanese internment of Japanese Americans. He himself went to an internment camp when he was 2 years old with his family. He asked if he could come back and do it again this year, and we said yes. And that just happened to coincide with this program we signed on for called One Book, One Coast, which is a collaborative reading program with libraries in California, Oregon, and Washington, centered around one book. And that one book is George Takei's graphic novel called They Called Us Enemy, which is basically the same story. I think George was 4 when he left with his family and was taken to an incarceration camp. And he wrote this graphic novel, which if you don't know, it's kind of like an adult comic book that tells the story of his and his family's time in the camp. And we have a lot of programs scheduled in May that are going to support that program. We have an organization coming that is going to do sort of a living history art program where children and adults will get together and they will create artwork based on the story of families being taken away and put in the camps. They showed us some samples. They're mostly done with construction paper and string, and they represent life in the camps. We've had a lot of, sorry, you can leave it there. We've had a lot of gardening programs, and those have been really, really popular, where people learn how to create a better garden for this specific climate. We support our summer reading program and National Library Week through outreach. We have themed programs during that time and opportunity drawings. So, the summer reading program was, really created many years ago when teachers were worried that children lost a lot of their reading skills during the summer. So the National Library Association went out and created this summer reading program. But because we like to be all inclusive, we have a program for adults too, where they are able to read books, submit book reviews, have a chance at an opportunity drawing for gift cards. We have programs that support it. They get certificates from our friends of the library for like buy one, get one at 50% off, equal or lesser value at the Friends store. Our adult programming statistics, well, just if we look at, I'm not going to read all the numbers, but if we look at 2024 to 2025, we can see that the numbers are growing. We've come back from the post-pandemic quiet years, and we have a lot of people participating in the programs now. This year so far, we don't have that up there on the slide, but this year so far, just January through March, we've had 21 adult programs with over 400 attendees, and we've had 3 multi-generational programs where we get the children and the parents and the grandparents together with about 75 attendees. Many of our programs are supported by our friends of the Redondo Beach Library. They use revenue from their bookstore, book sales, memberships, and donations to support those programs. They recently In the last year, they gave the adult programming a real budget, but the fund is used for the summer reading program, for National Library Week opportunity drawings, for honorariums to some of our program speakers, and for program supplies. When I gave this presentation the last time, it was not the Public Amenities Commission, it was strictly the Library Commission. But at that time, there were, a few suggestions that came out from that programming, from that presentation, and I'm happy to say that we've pretty much done almost everything that was suggested. Some of the commissioners said that they would like a how to use apps program, an introduction to the library's electronic resources program, clutter management program, senior safety, fraud, scams. We partnered with the Redondo Beach Police Department, and Sergeant Scott Martin did a program on senior safety, how to avoid fraud and scams. The local history trivia program came out of suggestions from the Library Commission. Some of the movie programs came out of suggestions for the Library Commission. We've been collaborating and cooperating a lot with our Youth Services Department and some of the other Redondo Beach City departments. We're really happy about this One Book, One Coast program. This is just one page out of George Takei's book, so you can see what a graphic novel looks like. This is One Book, One Coast. You're probably going to see this flyer almost at any library in the South Bay that you go to. I know Palos Verdes is participating in it, in a number of the other libraries. We have some programming that will align with the America 250, which is the semi-quincentennial program. We've also signed up with an association to get some free pocket-sized copies of the Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence, and those can be handed out during USA 250 themed programs. And this Saturday, I think Dana mentioned, we have the Women in STEM Careers program, which is really a program for parents and their middle and high school students who want to learn about science, technology, engineering, and math-related careers from women working in those fields. Girls, boys, parents, all welcome. They're going to have an industrial engineer there, an aerospace engineer, an energy consultant, and a sports medicine and rehabilitation physician. And we didn't get George Takei at our library, Ron, but he is going to be the keynote speaker for the One Book, One Coast, and he will be live at the East Los Angeles Library on May 31st. If you go to the website, you can find a link to sign up and see if you can get into it. But it's also going to be broadcast, so you could watch it on YouTube.
Cool.
So, anyone have any questions about adult programming?
I want to commend you. I think you're still doing this on a part-time basis, and the only person doing it, so I think you're doing a fabulous job with it. When is the One Book, One Coast program going to be? Because we have our Ito Park that we are getting the signs getting up, and it seems like it would be a nice tie-in for that.
I can sort of tell you when most of our programs for One Book, One Coast, well, no, all of our programs for One Book, One Coast are in May, okay. But I can give you some dates. If I can just find, go back to that One Book, One Coast packet that I had a minute ago when I held it up. And if I can't find it as we're talking, although it has to be here. I will send you all the dates. They will
Okay.
also be up on our website, but I will send them to, oh, here we go.
And since you're looking in there, if you can find the Aryan program that's
That is going to be,
not
May-
AREYN.
what's the first Saturday in May? May,
May 4th is a Monday, so it's probably May 2nd.
it's going to be on May 2nd.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
You mentioned you did a program for, a gardening program for the adults.
We did, yeah, we did several.
You did, yeah.
The Water Replenishment District did gardening and landscaping. They did like small container gardening and landscaping, all with the idea of using less water for the proper type of plants for the area. We also did programs on that with the South Bay,
Parkland.
the South, the South Bay Parkland Conservancy and the South Coast chapter of the California Native Plant Society. So it was 4 separate programs on gardening.
So they were all basically regarding like landscaping, landscape type gardening or container gardening.
Yeah, landscaping and container gardening and small space gardening, yes.
I'd be curious if, you know, that there's going to be that farmer's market that's going to be launching in North Redondo Beach, adjacent to the library. It'd be
Right.
interesting to maybe at some point do a program specific to produce, you know, vegetables, perhaps even growing those in containers. I know I've tried them unsuccessfully, but I know that I have friends who have done it. So I'd be curious to take a class like that myself.
Okay, I put that down as a program for next year. Like I said, almost everything that got suggested when we presented to the Library Commission the last time has happened, so I'm sure that that one will happen. Just a matter of finding the right person to do it.
It was a great presentation.
Thank
Very
you.
thorough. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add that kudos to Amy. She does amazing work, and since I've been here, I've been impressed over and over again. You know, I'll mention something, and she finds a way to do it. The only constraint, I think, is availability in the library meeting room, and the time that she's available to us. And but it's been amazing and a pleasure to work with her. And over the last couple of years, I've just seen the programs expand and be more inclusive. And it does take a lot of time to plan and coordinate, but when people attend, I used to do adult programming, and the worst thing that happens is if you have a great program and nobody shows up. So I always think of it, half the battle is getting good presenters and the other half is getting the word out. And I think Amy does both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, can I get a motion to receive and file the report, since that's what it says we're supposed to do?
So moved?
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any public comment? We probably should have, if there's any questions. You've
No
been very
public-
quiet back there too. Did you have any questions?
No.
If you do, now's the best chance to get her while she's still here.
Amy?
Oh, for me, I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, not for Amy.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so there are no more questions.
No questions.
questions.
Thank you so
And
much.
nobody's online, so,
No one's online and no comments.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Okay. Are you here for student credit at all? Okay, good. Okay, moving on to the next item, item L3, discussion and possible action regarding research of the history of the LGBT community in Redondo Beach. Do you have any comments you want to start off with, or do you?
I just want to say this was a referral from City Council, and I tried to encapsulate that in the title. I think our chair has a little bit of experience and background on this, and hopefully we can have a discussion on the best direction on how best to move forward. But I think the chair can provide a little more contextual.
Okay, so this first came up when I was on the Historical Commission, and the City Council did something similar where they wanted some sort of action being put together with regards to the history. So in 2023, we actually had a full-blown discussion on it, and my position at that point was we need to have somebody we need to fund a researcher essentially, because there's a lot of stories to be told, but it's the sensitivity on how you tell the story that's just as important. So back in 2023, I guess the impetus was the 1969 Stonewall riots in New York City, and that's what started the process. What makes this, and then it was brought up again in the Historical Commission when I wasn't on the commission in 2024 to, again, revisit the issue. And unfortunately, the commission meeting got canceled for lack of quorum, so we were formed after that, and it's kind of been sitting there. But there seems to be an impetus to at least try to capture a history of it. And I think and you can correct me, but because I think it involves the North Branch, they were talking about having a public art piece in the North Branch Library. And from what I gathered, there really isn't any conception of what the art piece is going to look like. So the history that we put together will probably end up being incorporated into whatever sculpture. The bottom line is we do not have a time frame as far as when we're supposed to be doing something, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But originally I thought they were going to throw it at us and say, come back next month and for Pride Month and take care of it. So for me, I think we have a city that's rich with stories, and a lot of people have lots of stories. And it's another opportunity to bring out some of the history of the city. And so what I was looking for from you guys today is if anybody wants to participate in kind of guiding this project through, essentially making a subcommittee to deal with that. So I'm sorry we're missing so many people today, but if anybody's interested, now's a good time to chime in on that you want to participate in it, and then we can start figuring out the concepts and bring it back to this commission on a regular basis. I also think we need to re-agendize this for next month when the other people are gone too, so we can expand that group. So I'm opening it up to comments and thoughts from people. Go ahead. No, go.
I think there's two things. First, there's the actual agenda item, which is, the discussion of this. But if we're going straight to the establishing of a subcommittee to have dedicated people, put something together, it might be best to continue the item to the next meeting, just because, again, like almost half the commission is not here. So if you're trying to establish a subcommittee with just the people here, that might be kind of limiting for the sake of this. So,
well, maybe the better way is a poll for the people out of here if they're interested in participating in it. So I'll start with you. Are you interested in participating in something like that? We're not making a subcommittee. I think that's a good recommendation, but
I'm always interested in anything that has to do with people or history, within the city. But again, if we're talking about establishing specifics of a subcommittee, I would feel more comfortable continuing the item until the next meeting.
Okay. Mr. Galassi?
I think it would also depend, for me, it would depend on when this item, when we need to turn this item around, because I'm sort of tapped out as far as all the subcommittees I'm personally participating on, including other things. So it would be helpful to kind of know a time frame as to when they would like this back.
Especially since, one can assume that, having something coincide with Pride Month, which is in June, we're talking about like one commission.
They're not talking about Pride Month.
Okay.
Because the way that, and Councilman Obaji is the one who approached me with it, is that they want us to come up with a history to kind of inspire the sculpture or whatever artwork they're going to do. I don't know if it's a painting or whatever.
I think to also provide some context, so it's not, just this is what
very
it is,
ambiguous,
to contextualize it. And, for that, there would have to be some level of research, and there are a lot of different ways we could approach it. So I'm more than happy to bring the item back. Next
I think we don't
month.
have enough information as far as.
Yeah.
I think that's the most information we're going to get is what we have right now.
Well, there has to be like some sort of timeline for the project, correct?
Not at this
For
point.
the art project, no?
I don't think they've done anything with that.
I think that they're still gathering input and looking for a direction. My understanding was that the proposal or the concept might be outside the North Redondo branch library. But I think they're, when I think as our city manager spoke about earlier, sometimes these things can take quite a while, but I'm more than happy to ping the department and see if they have any idea. And I think a lot of this is led in addition by the Cultural Arts Commission, so they might have their own timeline. Sometimes when these items might cross over a couple of commissions, we could do a little better with communication. But the concept in and of itself, I think, is to lend some context and inform that project a little bit better than, just the inspirational. We'd like to acknowledge this, great, I support it, but a little bit of context would be nice. And, it would take some effort on someone's part to be able to delve into that, and then a subcommittee to maybe provide a little bit of direction on what that ultimately looks like and bring it back to commission.
Is that something that you would undertake, to reach out to the Cultural Arts Commission and get that timeline from them, what they're,
Yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to, and I'm happy to report back if they say that it's vague, but we're more than happy to do that. So if we continue the item, I'll try to have more information next.
And we actually have the liaison on the Cultural Arts Commission speak to us regularly. And I've actually talked to them, because when they said there's going to be artwork or sculpture, it's like, well, what is it, so that we know what we're doing? And I don't think they've made any progress on that, and that's the source is Jack, the liaison. I'm just trying to gauge if there's interest in pursuing it. I'm going to probably end up doing some, research on it, just to get started on it. But I was hoping that if anybody else wanted to participate in it, I wouldn't deprive anybody of an opportunity to participate as well. So I'm happy with tabling it till next month. If we get full participation and just get the concept out there, that we are looking at maybe getting a subcommittee.
I have a subsequent question. Does somebody from the Cultural Arts Commission want to come here and talk about the project?
I think reaching out to the liaison and determining that would be a good idea. So we could definitely feel that out and see.
And you can also ask the councilman to come over here and share his
Absolutely.
concept as well.
Yep.
And you have direct access to him too. I think he's your councilman, Commissioner Gillespie.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I think the councilman who's referred it is also your councilman.
He is.
So he might be able to give you some more context to it. Commissioner McCauley, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, not really. There's not much to.
Okay. So do you want to make a motion to table it?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to table, I'll make the motion to continue item L3 to a future commission meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, so let's have some public comment if there's any.
No public comment.
Okay, then we will take a vote on it to table it to, or
Continue
it
item
to
L3.
next month, and it will be on the agenda again? Great. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so that recommendation passes. So now we move on to item L4, Commission Subcommittee Review and Project Update. So we'll start with the Minor Alteration Subcommittee. Anything to report?
There has been nothing that has come to us.
Okay. Facilities User Subcommittee, Commissioner Yusufi or McCauley?
No progress since our last update.
I have nothing for that subcommittee.
Okay, Volunteer Acknowledgement Program Subcommittee, Commissioner Yusufi, you're the only one from that?
Yeah, also nothing. I haven't been able to speak to Commissioner Rowe about it.
Okay, Bringing History to the Community Subcommittee. I just have brief updates with regards to the Ito Park. They're going to send it off to fabrication at some point in this next month. The Path of Histories are still there. On the timeline, I'm going to be sending out to the subcommittee a bunch of dates and let them pick out which of the 8 dates they want to put as markers in the Dominguez Park, and that sounds good that if they've opened it up, there may not be all the restrictions on that. And that's all I have. Do you have anything, Commissioner McCauley?
No.
Okay. Franklin Park Playground Subcommittee, anything?
We've not been provided with any updates as to the Franklin Park Playground breaking ground and that sort of thing. So there's no update.
Okay. Are
We
you
have not
guys
been-
uncovering the cornhole controversy over there?
I've heard about it, but I'm not covering it per se.
Okay. Alta Vista Park Pickleball Subcommittee.
Yay. We had a fantastic ribbon cutting at Alta Vista. It was really, really nice to be able to see our staff and our electeds out there playing and enjoying. And the community has already, been out there. They're getting, the courts are getting busier and busier, so it's exciting times.
Great, thank you. Preservation Outreach Subcommittee. You're the only one here for that one too.
So our meeting was canceled and we're trying to get another meeting on the books so that we can discuss the 2 events that we, not just the events, but also the outreach for preservation. Well, the first event would be the one in June at the Riviera Village Festival. We have a table that's been set aside for us, but we do not have any materials yet for that. So that was part of the meeting that we were going to have. And then the other event we're planning is for landmark designated homeowners, and that we were targeting for the fall. But that's all I have in that regard, and hopefully we can get a meeting in the books. Also because we need to understand, talking about budgets, what that's going to entail, and if community development has enough money in the budget to cover these 2 events.
Okay.
And the materials associated.
Okay, thank you. The Recognition Preservation Subcommittee, so I met with couple of members of the new historic district to just see what their thoughts were with regards to the concept of the bricks. as being embedded into the sidewalk, and they seem to be okay with that. So I'm going to ask that we I don't know if we need to agendize to approve that or just go forward and work with the Public Works Department on it. Which do you prefer?
I think that it can move forward. I think,
You can move forward?
yeah.
Okay, great. The funding hopefully will be independent of the city. The only thing, as you heard today, was the negotiating on the labor costs, which is an internal cost that the city would be incurring. Also, they expressed their preference for a sign that announces this is the Garnett Street Historical District, so looking for a vendor that will actually manufacture. I think it can actually be put together for under $200. So we're looking at that. And I think that's all I have on that preservation stuff. Budget Subcommittee, do you have anything additional?
Yeah, I've just a quick question. Well, I guess not a quick question, but just my quick kind of update. I don't think I got any kind of budget inputs from collectively everybody. I know 3 members are not here tonight, and based on the earlier discussion with the city manager, I think we might want to get this out before the next commission meeting. My understanding, and everybody here, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was thinking that I was going to get recommendations filtered through you, right? So I haven't gotten anything since our last meeting. So from what I have, everything's kind of grouped already, but I was kind of thinking that everyone was going to give individual budget items they wanted to include in the collective submittal.
Right.
So
And I can kind of speak to that. I did get, I think what happened was strategic plan kind of came to the forefront. So many of the items were kind of conveyed during that time period. It doesn't mean that they can't be reconveyed or conveyed for budget. So what I am thinking is we can send an email out to commissioners tomorrow just to get additional feedback, if any, and then the subcommittee can meet and take a look at those items and then that we have retained.
yes, and just to recap, and again, I can look at the minutes, but I'm pretty aware of, like, if memory serves me correct, we were discussing that things might have overlap between strategic items and then also items for the budget, right?
Right.
So if the strategic planning meeting has already kind of been completed, there's still the element of items we want to include for the budget discussion.
Absolutely.
So if there's things that you have, if you want to facilitate them this way, so I can just group them together kind of with the instruction of what the city manager gave us,
Absolutely.
just to make this process kind of go along. But yeah, if you can send that out, and then
Absolutely.
I will work diligently in the next couple of weeks to have a draft remitted to you. If you want to circulate that to the rest of the commission, then hopefully we can get something submitted.
Yeah.
So we can, so I sent something in after the last meeting. So I can add to that
Yes. Oh yeah.
and send that.
Well, what my time frame, just what I'm thinking is we'll send an email out, maybe let me know if, Monday deadline or Friday, I don't know, let me know.
But try and turn it around Monday?
Well, I would get the information back
sent back.
right,
Okay.
and then
Fair enough.
meet with the subcommittee. Again, I don't necessarily think there's any problem with the redundancy of items that were recommended for strat plan, are recommended for budget as well. We can confirm that, but I just want to capture any outliers, any sort of additional information. And then I think if the group here tonight is okay with the subcommittee meeting, conveying those, then at some point juncture in the future, through the subcommittee to city manager via the liaison, we can get that information to them.
And
I think that would be most expeditious.
yes, and I promise, like, I don't want you to have more administrative work as much
Yeah.
as possible. Like, whatever you need to facilitate without violating the Brown Act, that's why I
Absolutely.
was saying to have it circulated through you. But whatever, we can help with, not to take Commissioner or Chair Morocco's kind of mantra, but like, whatever we can do to help with the process, just let us know so we can make this easy on you as well, Dana.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, the one ad hoc committee that we did not put on there is the birthday. So
My
you have
apologies.
Yeah, so I will give full credit to Commissioner Rowe about this. He's been very diligent with trying to get contracts and entertainment and vendors. My last kind of email chain correspondence was he was working on the contract for a face painter. I believe he was working on that with Jack. So that was as of a week ago. So I know Commissioner Rowe's not here, but I will say this, for the sake of our meeting, thank you, Commissioner Rowe. He's been very, very diligent with trying to get entertainment summed up. So that's where we're at.
And just so it's clear, the birthday party is on April 25th from 11 to 3 p.m. Jack sent me a copy of the flyer, so I know that it's started being distributed out probably tomorrow. Once he gets the final approval. And but it is April 25th, which is the Saturday. It's coming up pretty soon. Okay, so can we get a motion to receive and file the committee review and updates?
So,
Motion to receive and file.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner McCauley. Commissioner Delassie, did you second it?
yes.
Okay, any public comment? No.
No public comment.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, say no. Okay, so now we move on to the second to last item, items from staff.
Just a few things. We'll reach out individually to those commissioners, but we're still missing, I think, a few of the 700 forms. Is that correct?
Yes, we're missing Lang's, use of size, and Macaulay's, I believe.
Ooh. So, and then we can work.
Can I add something on that?
Oh, yeah.
So I got a letter saying mine wasn't processed, and they said it was a $10 a day fine up to $100. I don't know if that's would be an incentive for people to finish it, but once you get onto that website, it should be really easy to get through.
And city clerk is available to assist, so just reach out.
I thought I already did it. I was
Yeah.
surprised. I'm pretty sure.
It's a once a year thing.
That-
Yeah, I went
They
to the
didn't give us
website
much
and
notice this year. They gave us like less than a week.
And really,
didn't
since it's
finish
an annual thing, I should just put it on our calendar to remind people, probably starting as early as possible the calendar year. But I'm sorry I interrupted you, sir.
It's just the one thing that we need from the email she sent?
Yeah, you click on that and there's a login.
Figure it out.
And I'll let you see the last year one so you can actually know that you don't have to
Yeah.
Right.
spend it. And that was actually where I found out that we have phone numbers for this commission.
Right.
So, because that's the number I put down on the form.
Yes, and then I did list that on the business cards for the commissioners, there is a phone number. It's monitored by staff. If we receive a phone voicemail, we will reach out to you. So far, it's just been wrong numbers, but it does work. I tested it myself. I know it wasn't any of you, but one was a call about a DoorDash order. So I'm sure that was incorrect. But thank you for reminding me, because I do get notifications when there is a message left, and we will confer with you as soon as possible. The other thing is we sent an email out to commissioners regarding the certified local government. What's the rest of it? Certified.
The report.
It was like continue education stuff, right?
Yes.
It was like continue education, like
Yeah.
for like preservation.
Also, I would encourage you to look at the last one, because your resume is completely on there, Commissioner Galassi. So if you want to change your bio, now's the time to do it. I think it's already delinquent, the report, but I know that he just got the template, so.
I think the senior planner is diligently working on it, reached out to us. I think that when applications are submitted, there's the ability to attach a resume and submit that. But then obviously that is only distilled at that time of the application, so your resume might be updated. But I think primarily they were interested in gathering information on any of the commissioners that had attended preservation training for the year 24 for that report and the year 25 for that report. So, and then if you could let us know one way or the other, I know some of you have sent me an email, but one way or the other would just affirm or.
So you may want to, for the commission, we did have a training with Planner Kinsella and like her last meeting, and we had one with Mark Weiner, I think, in August. So you should see it for anybody who was in attendance on those 2 dates in the minutes that they attended as well.
Okay. Because I think, when we went, because one of the other things it calls for is we were looking back at the attendance records too, and I think preservation, when we looked at it, they might have had 1 or 2 meetings that calendar year. A lot of them were canceled.
It's actually October, it mirrors our first year, so it's October through September.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
So it was anything with Chair Yusufi on there, that would have been that commission year.
Yeah.
That counts.
Let's see. So I have that, and you already mentioned the birthday celebration. We're happy to have our staff out there promoting our resources. It's always a fun event, and we'll also put it on our website. The way we kind of cross promote is that if we're at an event like this birthday celebration, we'll say on our website, come visit us at the museum, and hopefully it'll draw people to kind of cross-pollinate both institutions. So thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Commission member items and future commission agenda topics. Item N, Commissioner Yusufi, you have anything now?
Just what we discussed about the subcommittee. That's it.
Okay. Commissioner Galassi?
None, thank you.
Commissioner McCauley?
None of this on.
Okay, I do have one thing. So I've gotten a tentative go-ahead to create veteran banners honoring our veterans for like Artesia Boulevard, about 8 of them. So what I talked with my council person about doing is that book that kind of the author's coming to the library, they actually have in the back a bunch of pictures of vets that served in World War II, and I think a couple in the Korean War, and just get the permission, which I've been given oral permission to use them, and then get an estimate to put it up there. So that hopefully will be up before our next meeting. I'm going to see if I can get private funding, so it doesn't have to come back to the commission, but I wanted you guys to know.
Very cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our public left, so I think it's time for us to take a motion to adjourn. The next meeting of the Redondo Beach Public Amenities Commission will be a regular meeting to be held at 6:30 p.m. on May 13th, 2026 in the Redondo Beach Council Chambers, 415 Diamond Street, Redondo Beach. It is the intention of the city of Redondo Beach to comply with Americans with Disability Acts in all respects. If an attendee or a participant in the meeting will need special assistance beyond what is normally provided, the city will attempt to accommodate you in every reasonable manner. Please contact the city clerk's office at 310-318-0656 at least 48 hours prior to the meeting to inform us of your particular needs and determine if an accommodation is feasible. Please advise us at that time if you will need accommodations to attend or participate in the meetings on a regular basis. Our agenda packet is available 24 hours at www.redondo.org under the city clerk. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any public comment on that part?
No public comment.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
No.
All those opposed say no. Okay, oh, I got a gavel here. We are adjourned. Thank you all.